Let's dive in. Let's start with referrals to begin with. Referrals are the gold standard of leads. Not all leads are equal, especially when you are talking about marketing campaigns. You have hoardings, you have ads, social medias, which are bringing in a lot of OPD visits. But referrals are not OPD visits. Referrals are high cost, often high return leads that are actually being triggered to you by your partner network. Right? Referral patients convert 2 to 3 times higher than marketing leads. And here is the key. They are usually surgical or specialty patients. Think of an orthopedic center in Bangalore. They told us Google ads bring us knee pain patients, but every single knee replacement comes through referrals. Right? So that's the difference, right? Referral patients are high value, high conversion, trust driven. So when a doctor refers a patient to you, the patient is half decided, right? Patient is already halfway through and now is coming to you for actually that validation, that confirmation that you can actually be that person who can help them fix that problem, right? So while you consider referrals as the gold standards, if most hospitals track them less than they track their Facebook campaign ROIs. And believe me, your Facebook campaign ROIs are pretty much useless unless you're really tracking them well as well, right? So moving on, I just wanted to talk about how the current referral playbook is being designed. So now, how do hospitals handle referrals today? Again, typically through PROs, field marketing teams, and CMEs. CMEs are great. Right? They build trust. PROs visits are essential to keep the doctors connected back to you. Right? PROs also help you cover geographies and review hospitals which are already not covered, right? PROs can drive across district, distribute brochures for you, educate more and more doctors. But honest feedback is that CMEs are probably where you would want these doctors to come in. And CMEs are posted at hotels, costing lakhs, and they're just hoping for some of these doctors will go back and probably generate referrals for you from a goodwill, right? These do build relationships. Again, don't get me wrong there, right? But here's what one of the, let's say, CEOs who we work very closely told us, right? While they admit that the CMEs are great and they spend over a lakh to conduct just one CME, right? Most of the time, it is almost impossible for hospitals to track the ROI of a CME or track referrals that are getting generated from the CME post the first 3 months, right? Because there is an immediate effect if you can see patients from there, but beyond 3 months, you barely are able to track them. The truth be told, the model that you're using today is manual, it's expensive, and it's people dependent, right? So what happens is tomorrow your PRO or your marketing executive moves to another hospital or shifts into another hospital. The first thing that you're going to see is that a lot of your network will become less effective, right? Now, that's not because the PRO has not been doing a good job. That's primarily because the PRO has been doing a very excellent job. And with that human touch going away, it suddenly brings down your effectiveness, right? So, a lot of these, let's say, inefficiencies that are there in the current system, they continue to be there and they're only becoming more harder and harder for you to track. So I'll stop here very early in the webinar, but we wanted to take a quick poll. So Fareen, if you can just trigger that poll.
Yeah, one second. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. So let me read that out for you guys. What percentage of your surgical patients today come from referrals? I'll give you a minute to answer that and then maybe we can move forward. So Fareen, just let me know when you have the response.
Okay. I think, yeah, we have got the results.
Okay.
So less than 10% is around 30% people, but around 43% people say that it's 10 to 20% only, and then rest of them is like 29-30%.
Thank you for that, right? So in most webinars like this, we see that majority fall under the 20 to 30 bucket. But leading hospitals see referrals contributing to as high as 40% of the surgical patients, right? So there is a gap, and we will try to decode that further, right? Now, just a quick, so where are the inefficiencies, and we want to a little bit understand that, right? So where do hospitals lose referrals? After a referral, if the hospital doesn't update the referring doctor, the first thing that happens is that trust erodes, right? If a doctor has referred your patient, he's expecting you to call back, he's expecting you to communicate better, right? Here's what happens more often than not in the hospitals, right? A doctor refers a patient, but then the patient doesn't show up because nobody followed up, right? WhatsApp inquiries go unanswered, there are no walk-ins that are tracked, right? So there are these four primary areas that we have identified. One is, of course, the inquiries that are getting translated to you, but somehow you're unable to track them. Second, there are patients who turn up, but then during the pre-op or the diagnostic process, they drop off, right? The third is, of course, the referrals itself, delayed feedback, no update triggering doctors not come back to you. And finally, the accountability of the PROs itself, right? So difficult to measure, difficult to understand in terms of where the inefficiencies are because the human is involved. Now, just quickly switching to the hard truth, consider this, right? In a large private hospital chain we studied, the customer or the patient acquisition cost for marketing patients were averaging around 6,000 to 7,000. But for the referral, it was under 3,000, right? Which means half the cost, right? And here is the kicker, right? Referral patient had nearly double the conversion rate because they were usually coming in for planned procedures, right? These aren't guesses. These are survey level estimates for Indian hospitals. We've done around 500 odd hospitals, right? Lead to OPD conversions, 15 to 25% when unstructured, and the same numbers increase to 35 to 50% when you have a structured way to manage it. Impact doubling your, imagine doubling your impact if you could just cut the CAC in half. These are big numbers, mind you, right? So when you're talking about these multiples in terms of the overall patient, we're talking huge numbers, right? So where and how? So we also did something further. So we went back to these referring doctors and tried to bring their story to you. Um, Again, doctors themselves are clear about what they want. So one physician told us, when I refer a patient, I expect communication, not silence, right? I am answerable to patient families, right? So these are real stories. Tier 2, tier 3 towns, when the doctors actually refer patients, the families are relying on the referring doctor to actually bring that feedback to them, and they are directly answerable, right? Another one said that I want transparency, charges, recovery times, outcomes. There's some information that they would like to know so they can also explain this, right? Another gynecologist in Punjab, right? One of our customers, he told us that they don't need fancy portal, right? Just send me a WhatsApp update when my patient is admitted or discharged. This is all I need to know. These are not big asks. So they're simple, practical expectations. Yet, most of the hospitals fail to do this, right? In India, especially in the market that we're living in, trust is everything. And trust plus feedback plus coordination can actually deliver a way more better engagement for you. Just to now jump on to what we are proposing. So I would like to just quickly touch upon the blueprint that we are proposing for a digital first referral system. Right? So number one, you need to connect and onboard your partners onto a digital platform that they're comfortable with. Right? Now, mind you, no doctor, and believe me when I say this, no doctor actually wants to download an app, right? So if you are even considering remotely an idea of having an app, to manage your referrals and your, let's say, patient inflows, it's a very bad idea because neither the patient nor the referring doctors really want to download an app, right? So you want to make it easy. You want to build an ecosystem where you're just sitting on your desk, you are able to build your partner network by engaging with them on the channels that they would prefer, right? Second is you need to communicate continuously, right? When a patient is referred to you, it is your responsibility as an hospital to communicate back. Not only if the patients turn up and if the patient is admitted and the patient is going through certain care journey, but the responsibility continues with you even if the patient does not turn up, right? Because a referring doctor needs to know this either ways. He needs to know if the patient has turned up, and he also needs to know if the patient has not turned up. Okay? So you need to build a mechanism either by integrating with your HIS system or in a manner that this information goes back and forth, and this information is regular and it is continuous and it is per patient that is being referred to, right? Finally, the third important aspect is to coordinate field activity, right? Now, again, a very important aspect. So, one of the hospitals whom we talk to very regularly in Bangalore told us that they have three different branches. Two of the branches are actually in North Karnataka, one is in Bangalore. And the biggest challenge that they have is that the field activities that are being triggered, right, are very haphazard, right? You have a CME and then you have follow-up field activities in the same area, which is not going to deliver results, right? So you need to be able to coordinate that part. Also, you see five visits happening which are across large distances, while there could be five doctors in the same area. Right? Now, things like this needs to be done better. They need to be executed well. You need to enable and empower your field marketing executives, your PROs, to actually be able to plan their day, right? Use the partner network to their advantage. Understand whom can they reach easily, whom can they actually network with. You also need to understand who are your active partners, right? Doctors who are trying to find out services in your hospital for the patient, doctors who are trying to constantly engage and understand with your ecosystem. This is something that you need to know so that you can make your field executives visits more effective. Third thing, everything is about follow up, right? So you need to be able to not just touch upon a particular partner once, but you should be able to regularly exchange information irrespective of how is engaging with you, right? So even if they are primarily focused on just, let's say, visiting the doctor once in a month, that's still enough. But that visits have to be made effective by providing specific data for that doctor, right? If I am a doctor and I've been referring patients with respect to orthopedic patients, then I would expect that when the PRO comes to me, he is able to at least update me on the last 4 or 5 patients that I had referred, right? The status of them. And then if there are anything else that he wants to share, that should also be something that should be made available to me, right? Finally, as a management team, you need to measure and you need to optimize, right? Um, it's a very common saying that the KPIs that you don't measure can never improve, right? So, as a management team, the onus of you being able to manage, track, and focus on these KPIs is very, very necessary. Right? So, there are some very quick KPIs that you can go after, right? One is number of referrals sent to you. How many of that are resulting because of the conversations? If there is a lead drop off, where are your referrals getting dropped off, right? Which partners and how many high performing partners do you have? Where are they located? And are your patients coming from specific geographies, right? For example, there could be a chance where you could probably be based out of Bangalore, you are in Whitefield, and most of your patients are coming primarily from Kolar or one specific region, right? Or Devanali, right? This would mean that you know that your patient base is being tapped from a specific set of partners, and then you can double down on your marketing activities. Right now, this is a blueprint that almost every modern hospital is trying to build and trying to operationalize so that they can have long-term benefits as well as complete management visibility into systems like this, right? At this point of time, again, I will stop, let Farheen trigger the second poll just to see how you guys are doing on this. Yeah. So over to you, Farheen. Just to read that out for you, which part of your referral process is your biggest challenge today? Partner doctor engagement, field team accountability, feedback to referring doctors, tracking conversation. I think we know where this is heading. Right?
Yeah, great. I think we've got all the answers in the poll.
Fantastic, right?
Yeah.
So again, a lot of answers with respect to field team accountability, feedback to referring doctors, but the highest one seems to be tracking conversions, right? Again, this is not just you. This is most of the hospitals out there are primarily struggling with the same ecosystem challenges, right? So just to talk a little bit more on that aspect, right? So, what are the biggest challenges that your partner or the hospital is facing today, right? So now blueprint is easier said than done, right? I don't want to be the person who's prescribing something to you that you can't implement, right? So we're talking to a hospital CEO in Nagpur. Very interesting. They have around eight field marketing executives, and they have over 1,000 partner doctors, right? Which means roughly they are doing 80 visits every day. Now, while they claim that there are 80 visits that are happening, they're not really able to pinpoint in terms of if they're really being able to make that 80 visits and if they're able to do that conversion aspect, right? So what we did, we now switched them to a solution that can help them track and segment their doctors. So we started off with the first step. We said, okay, you know what? Maybe you categorize your doctors, right? So maybe categorize your doctor into like A, B, C, D kind of a segment, and then you identify which are the top segments of hospital doctors who are referring patients to you, and then maybe map them onto a geographical area and then try to track where your referrals are coming from, right? Again, not an easy thing to do when you're actually using legacy Excel sheets and tools, right? So here are the two big challenges for an hospital, right? One is, how do I build trusted long-term relationship with my partner doctors, and can I do it at scale, right? I'm not talking about 100 doctors, I'm not talking about 1,000 doctors. Can it be like 10,000 doctors? Can it be 20,000 doctors, right? So can you do it effectively at a very large scale? That is one of the challenges that most of hospitals face, right? Second is, how can I make sure that my field force is effective? Mind you, we are not talking about tracking the field executives at this point of time, right? Of course, there are tools that you can do that as well, right? But what we are primarily focused in, how do you empower these field executives with information, with specific data that they can use to actually double down and be more effective in terms of their visits. Now, this is something that we have seen can be done, and these are the two challenges that we really wanted to work towards, right? So, coming down to how can we help, and how can we help you operationalize the blueprint that we have been mentioning, right? Now, this is where Prodoc AI steps in. We not only digitize your referral ecosystem, we do this entire referral ecosystem on a tool like WhatsApp, right? A tool that can enable you to empower a field executive who has been with you for 20 years, right? Somebody who's in 50s can also use the tool. Somebody who's in the 20s can also use the tool. Your referring doctor who's a 60-year-old guy can also use the same tool, right? So a channel that already is used by most of the Indians, a channel that is widely popular, and a child that can actually align to your goals, right? Product AI is also built on the framework that enables you to do all the four things and do them effectively, right? Something that you can do to scale your partner today, which your field executives are currently doing, right? When they go out and they actually make those visits, we anticipate that they are going and meeting new doctors every now and then. But if that information doesn't shuffle back to you and you are not able to aggregate that information gets lost. This tool enables you to build that network both with the ground force as well as while sitting at your comfort of your room and actually using your existing relationships to deliver. Second, next time you have a CME, let the entire CME engagement be done by a tool like this. Right? A tool that can help you coordinate with your large partner network, inform and educate them in terms of what would the CME be about, help them RSVP and let them know if they're coming or not, and then also help them with small things like route, program, what could be the let's say the lineup that you're expecting as part of the CME, and what could be the overall agenda there, right? Third, again, I can't say this enough. You need to empower your field teams to actually do better, right? One, empower them. Second, you should be able to get your field force teams to actually use simple planners, right? So they know they plan their day where they're heading towards. They use these planners all to do simple check-ins when they meet the doctors, right? The check-ins not just help them in registering that they met a doctor. The check-ins also help you to remember and then do the follow-up visit to make it more effective, right? Finally, of course, you need to track progress and track ROIs closely. So every camp that you do, every CME that you do, every participants who attend those events can be tracked through the same ecosystem. And you can not only just engage with them while you are in the event, you can engage with them post event. You can also engage them throughout their ecosystem, right? So here is a very quick view of what product looks like, right? Now, on one side, you have your partner network, and on the other side, you have your field teams, right? So when you're talking about your partner network, they can be invited onto this WhatsApp platform from a backend UI, which will give you. These partner networks can just answer to your WhatsApp triggers and then engage with you and start working with you. So the platform helps you onboard your partners onto a simple WhatsApp number, right? That could be your hospital number. Now, every partner can ask questions. They can check availability of doctors. They can understand the services that you're offering, and they can actually use the same channel to refer patients to you. And this patient referral can be either sending you through a voice note, it can be through sending let's say, a simple uh, picture of your referral pad. It can also be a small handwritten note, right? So it doesn't matter how they would want to send that. They can use their existing mechanism and actually trigger this, right? Now, on the second side, right, on the side where you're talking about the field executives, this becomes even more interesting, right? Now, your field executives do not need a new app, they don't need a new tool. On the same existing WhatsApp number of your hospital, you can now enable your field executives to plan their day, mark their check-ins. They can create referrals that are being shared with them. They can add new partners every time they visit. They can even report their locations if they have to, right? So this becomes like a very comprehensive ecosystem that you can use both to address both the challenges. One, to work with your large partner network. At the same time, also use this to effectively work with your field executives. I want to talk a little bit in terms of where we've done this. So, interestingly, our partner management platform is now active with over 40 odd hospitals. This is one of the tools that we have implemented right from Kerala all the way to Delhi. So, we have a very wide hospital network who is using this tool. So, you can be rest assured that this is one of the safest system out there. Right? Again, hospitals have been using the partner network across the board. So your partner network doesn't have to now be restricted to a specific geography. It can actually spread across multiple areas. It doesn't matter whether your patients are coming from 100, 200, 300 kilometers, right? The distance is now not a concern anymore, right? Because where your field executives cannot reach, there you can still let your digital footprint go and work with the doctors across India, right? To actually work with you, understand, ask questions to you, work with the hospital staff to actually get the patient the help that's needed, right? When we started working with Bosch, this is a 60-bedded hospital run by Dr. K.K. Subbiah, is the CEO of the hospital. One of the most interesting thing that we found out was that they were sporadically getting patients from Calcutta. They were also getting patients who were referred all the way from abroad because Dr. K.K. Subbiah was there in Middle East for a certain amount of time, right? Now, he had a partner network that spread not across districts, states, but it was spanning across countries, right? And most of these were managed by some staff in the hospital, and there was no way for the doctor to really track how these communications were going on a day-to-day basis. The other challenge that he had was that while he had marketing team and they said they were primarily going and making these field visits, he wasn't seeing a lot of traction from the local, let's say, catchment areas, right? So the immediate 100-150 kilometer radius of patients, they were not able to find him. They were not able to really, there were not many partners who were referring to him there, right? And all the coordination was managed manually, so this was becoming a challenge, right? When we actually tried to do an audit of his system, what we realized was that he did have a very good name and he's very popular among a lot of patients. There's a great rating on Practo. Patients love him. He's been in touch with a lot of these doctors, but he hasn't been able to communicate them with the frequency that he would have liked, right? So most of the doctors have probably been in touch with him for over a year. So a lot of these doctors were not able to engage directly. There were some change in phone numbers, so they were always reaching to the wrong person. There were a lot of challenges that he had in terms of being able to go back and tap into the doctors whom he was relying on to send patients to him. Right? Over the last 1.5 year, what we've done is we've built direct WhatsApp-based engagement channel for not only for a lot of doctors who are referring patients to him locally from Kolar, from nearby areas. He actually now has patients or partner doctors all the way in Calcutta and surrounding areas, right? These doctors can talk to him directly, can message on this number, can message on this ecosystem to get his availability, his understanding, right? He can also, because we've integrated this ecosystem with his HIS, what it does is any patients who come, most of the patient updates are actually triggered to the referring doctors almost seamlessly. This is also creating a lot of trust between him and the doctors who are referring to him far off. So it becomes very easier for a doctor sitting in Calcutta to now understand how the patient has been recovering, right? Finally, we have also implemented a system for his local field teams, right? So for them to become more effective. So now when they go out and when they are focusing on multiple geographies, not only are they meeting new doctors, they're also enabling those doctors to become part of this extended network of Dr. Subbiah. And then they can now refer to Bosch hospitals, not only for orthopedic related cases, but because the hospital itself is now opened up multiple specialities, it's also very easier for them to go back and communicate more of that, right? So I want to switch a little bit in terms of what should you look forward to, right? What could your path forward be? So what we can do for you is number one, we can actually do or perform a good referral network audit, right? We understand how your processes are today. What are you doing? How are you doing this, right? What are your partner network look like? What are the geographies that you're focusing on? Where are your referral leads, if there are any coming from? Okay? What we can do as a step two is pilot the new framework with test workflows. What that means is instead of enabling the solution and going big bang, we could actually build this network for you and enable it for a much smaller network So you can see it function, right? You can see it, how this works for you. And when you're comfortable, you can actually open it to a much larger network. Third, we can always bring in the whole digital infrastructure and do the integration with your HIS so that the system doesn't become a burden for you. The system becomes more of an enabler. So the system can now expand and grow as and when your needs do. Right? Finally, we will also enable you with a lot of monitoring. So you will have dashboards that can actually help you not only understand how your partner network is performing, where are they from, how are they doing, how much of engagement are you able to garner, right? How frequently do you see information coming back and forth? Where are these referral networks and how you can do better, right? So that's pretty much it from my side. Again, I just want to quickly touch upon ProDoc. The ProDoc is a global category leader in care journey intelligence. We have over 1 million plus patients who engage on our platform, and we have over 100 clients. Here are some of the references that are right in front of you, and they are all the big names that you can see in the industry. Right. We're also associated with Derby and iHeal Foundation. We do a lot of work with the consulting partners like Solution like Deloitte. Right. And the platform is actually built on one of the best technology partners that you can see out there. Finally, I also want to talk a little bit in terms of the data security aspects. This is something that is fundamental and necessary when it comes to healthcare ecosystems. We actually do implement, we are a 27,001 compliant certified ecosystem. All the data that is stored in our system is actually encrypted both at rest as well as in transit. And we actually implement the best in the industry standards. We do have an EHS ecosystem running on our platform, which is the most probable place where you could have seen us before, right? With that, I would like to finally stop and then let see if there are questions, if there are queries, and then maybe answer those. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Raghu. That was great. We have a couple of questions, and anyone who wants to have any questions, please post it there. We'll be able to go one by one. So we have a question from one of the attendees where that person is asking, what are some early signs that a hospital might be missing out on referral opportunities or probably losing referral growth?
So a lot of this is something that is very known if you are a leading specialist, right? And you have most of the leading specialists have their own hospitals running. They would very often, while interacting with the general practitioner, while interacting with the partner doctors, hear this very common phrase: "I sent a patient to you, but never heard back." Right? It's a very common thing, right? And a lot of this is done in passing, right? You meet a doctor in a CME, he comes to you, he says, "Oh, you know what, I sent 4 patients, but the marketing executive told me that the patient never turned up," right? This is a very big red flag, I would say, right? When you actually see that the partners are actually sending patients to you, that you're being referred, and still you lack the visibility or you're unable to understand and track those patient referrals, that's a sign where you should really start auditing the system. Another aspect which I also want to tell you is a lot of hospitals do a lot of field visit tracking on Excel sheets, right? So you have a lot of these partner doctors who are now put into Excel, they're bifurcated. You actually are tracking every visit that was done to them, and then you're tracking the follow-up visits, etc. Right? These are all excellent ways to work. However, one of the very concerning aspect of managing a system like this is that this Excel sheet itself now becomes a burden, right? Somebody has to constantly keep updating this, right? It has to be kept in order, it has to be managed, and that itself is now a work in itself, right? So we've seen a lot of field teams some point of time give up or don't care, because as a field executive, if I am updating some data in an Excel, the least I'm expecting is that I get some insights that help me improve my work, right? If I am the field executive, I am visiting, let's say, Whitefield, and we have 20 doctors in Whitefield who are working with our hospital, then if I visit 15 of them, I would expect that somehow the system is identifying that I am making visits in specific location and help me with some recommendation about the rest of the five who I can actually go to, right? Without a follow back of analytics and follow back of insights to the marketing field executives, this creates a barrier, and then people don't, let's say, don't participate. These are few things that you should keep a lookout for.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. We have another question. Can this platform work with our existing hospital system?
Definitely, right? So again, the whole solution is designed to integrate with an HIS system so that two things can happen, right? Whenever a referral is created, system actually goes back to your HIS and sees if there are patients who are already mapped onto this phone number. And if there are patients, then it can also get the UHIDs from the HIS system. So it can also identify if there was a prior interaction with your hospital for a specific patient. Right? If that's not the case, what the system does, it creates what you call as a temporary referral note. What that will do is when the patient actually comes to the hospital, this temporary referral can actually now be transformed into an UHID and create a patient record automatically into the system. Right? This way, you are not adding up a lot of patient data into your HIS who are not really your patient, right? Only because a doctor has referred a patient to you does not necessarily mean that the patient will show up. Right? Now, of course, we are all hospitals do have mechanisms where we are making sure that the patient is given the right guidance so he can come. But in the cases, more often than not, patient do decide to go elsewhere, which is perfectly fine. But now having that information as part of your HIS creates an additional burden on you to maintain data who's actually not your patient. That we can actually take care of that as well. So the system makes sure that the referral is created and converted into a UHID only when the patient shows up. Right. That's second. Third is working with your existing ecosystem means you don't have a new interface. It also means that you don't have to take the burden of updating anybody, right? The system will pick up any updates that are triggered from the HIS and communicate that information back to either the marketing executive or the referring doctor himself. And this is completely configurable, right? So you choose what kind of information. You also choose what kind of updates can be shared with both of them or either of them, right? So you decide that. And this information can be done through simple integrations. Most of the HIS systems that we have worked with, and we have worked with over 10 HIS systems in India, we can guarantee you that the integration shouldn't be a big challenge.
Great. I think this is our last question. How long does it typically take to see ROI from a digital referral system like Prodoc?
Great question. Again, yeah. So usually if you implement a digital system like this, right, uh, typically a single referral that gets generated anytime from the day the system is created to the system gets enforced, right? One single referral that gets created through this ecosystem can actually bring that validation for you and bring that ROI, right? But let me answer it differently, right? The system has many folds, right? One aspect of the system is to help you build partner network, right? Which means how many doctors are you able to partner? How are you able to grow that partner network month on month? And if that partner network, which is now growing, is also engaging, is active, is also referring patients, right? So that's one key KPI that you can work with. The second key KPI that you can work with is how effective is your field team, right? If they're visiting the right people, if you're partnering with the right set of doctors, and if that is actually triggering the right information back to you. Third is, of course, the referral itself, right? Now, that's where the tire hits the road, because a referral that is generated directly from a doctor to you is a testimonial that the doctor is also not dependent on any intermediaries per se, right? Which means now you are building a direct relationship with your partner network, and that's the engagement that's now finally starting to deliver, right? And most of the times we've seen that roughly a month or 2 months is a great time, or 2 or 3 months is a very good time for any hospital to start seeing if the system is fully on, right? Um, of course, we've also seen that there are at times, let's say, resistance from your internal teams to manage these processes, because initially it starts to look like it's an additional work that they're expected to be done. But trust me, when you actually see those dashboards coming alive, when you actually see that ecosystem delivering those insights to you, almost everybody in the organization can be convinced that this is a great system to have, right? So I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think this is our last question. So someone is
Okay.
asking, can this be integrated with Kiwi software?
Again, very interesting. I really have not heard of Kiwi software to begin with, but if you have a specific request, we will look that up, right? And Farin, maybe you can make a note of the person who's asking the
Yeah.
question, so we can specifically review this particular software that's being referred, and then go back and answer that, right? But like I said, we have integrated with best systems out there, so we'll not be surprised if we can do that easily for you.
Great. So I think, yeah, we have reached the end of the webinar. Just give me a second. So, okay. So anyone, I mean, thank you, all of you for joining us today. I hope you had found the values and the webinar very interesting. And thank you, Raghu, for sharing your expertise on the referral networks and how we can manage predictable growth. Anyone who has any further questions or probably wants to know about ProDoc as well, please feel free to reach out to me. I will send out a recording of the webinar where you'll find my phone number and you'll also find my email ID. You could probably also give me a call directly. That would be great. And thank you everyone for joining us. I will see you soon. So also we will have a continuous webinar going on every month. Please feel free to subscribe to us. We have different channels on Instagram, Facebook, and as well as on YouTube. You can subscribe and follow for all the interesting webinars that we keep having. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Farin. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.